This graph comes from my last YouTube video, which was kind of how the YouTube algorithm creates like what we call like the echo chamber disparities of like left and right wing. If we had a truly like unifying media, it would resemble the top graph, and what we currently have is one that resembles the bottom graph, where people kind of try to find like what they either strongly agree with or strongly disagree with, because people don't watch stuff that like they just like kind of mildly agree with. It has to be kind of like, you know, a disparity. The recent Twitter bans are actually going to cause more radicalization than less. So we're focusing mainly on this portion. Let's assume that this is like the right wing's half of like what's considered acceptable media. This is like, to be part of the right, you have to be within this circle. If you're too far on this side, then you become like too much of a Unitarian and you're not getting anything done. If you're too far this way, then you're like considered radical. These are kind of like the lines of what's considered acceptable in like your particular chamber. And the left has the exact same thing. It's just like, instead for them, like the left side is the radical and the right side is the too Unitarian. So what is happening when you have tech censorship is they're closing up more of this side of the circle. So it turns into something like this, and the circle becomes something. You doing, buddy? Like this, and maybe like that. It's kind of the new circle. So the issues that you gained followers over here, but you took out a larger chunk over here. So if we fill it out, you lost essentially this many followers and gained this many acceptable ones. So you see how like the bar is further up on this side, and like the bell curve part doesn't matter. Like, you know, like it's a higher, like it has more. So we can treat it like rectangles to prove the point. So what happens is now, let's say like over here was one standard deviation of the right-wing population was considered radical. It's probably like a significant less percentage of that is now expanded to include more individuals. So what happens is initially there was an echo chamber of these people because they probably have the exact same scale of what's going on over here, just on like a more extreme measure. There's probably, you know, an echo chamber like that as well. So what happens is we just expanded from this little circle to this as the quote-unquote radical circle for like in this case the right. Same thing would happen on the left if there was tech censorship happening on the left, which essentially like what tech censorship does is it just moves the party over or whatever. The issue with it though is if the other side doesn't move, we don't necessarily see like this normal distribution move with it, because everyone's still like just as dislikey of the opposite's content, which from our YouTube algorithm presumption is people care just amount about likes as they do dislikes. So essentially, like if you look at this graph of what happened here, we by moving over just like this little bit, because of, you know, how like areas of circles work, it's like an exponential increase. It's good, you know, because it's like pi r squared or whatever. Like our radius just doubled, which means we like fourfold increase the area of what's quote unquote radical. So what happens to radicals is they go to the other platforms like Parler or whatever rather than on Twitter. which is now why you see like the push, like there's been like this push for like Parler to do new censorship or whatever, which is missing the point and does the exact same thing as here. Is like they're always going to form the radicals of any group will always find a way to unite with their group or whatever. So what you would rather do is see that communication in broad daylight, and because so like, how much more likely are you to talk about QAnon on Twitter versus Parler? I'm assuming they're much more likely to talk about it on Parler because there's more like-minded folks, and it's, you know, become like it's like essentially become an acceptable subreddit of Parler because Reddit wouldn't accept it. So what would happen though is if you had it as a public subreddit, there would be enough people coming in there that would potentially show them like, hey, this is like way out there crazy stuff that could potentially move them over to the de-radicalized side. The issue with changing where this is, the individuals in here are now moving to the radicalized side because that's where they're finding the echo chamber that, you know, accepts them. So what the language should be that we have of anyone that's a radical isn't to move like this quote unquote, this is essentially when people talk about the Overton window, this is kind of pretty close to what they are talking about, except the Overton window doesn't have the left side boundary because the boundary needs to expand to both the left and the right. You know, we close off these individuals, they find the echo chamber further on the right rather than coming back to their like family home environment. What we should be encouraging is like, all right, you lost, I'm sorry, you know, things didn't go your way, we still love you, we encourage you to like continue looking into stuff. We need to encourage them to communicate, encourage them to look up stuff and find info, and that increases their chances of being de-radicalized. By forcing them into an echo chamber, they only get the information from their particular echo chamber, which then encourages them to become more radicalized. This is like the conclusion just based off of using how like the YouTube algorithm works and assuming that models some type of behavior in like human psychology. This graph is just looking at the split of that right and the left graph and looking at what happens when you move what's considered acceptable on one side. But yeah, this is why I think the tech bans are actually going to radicalize more people. The question then is like, what is the actual goal? I'm assuming all these tech companies that are censoring know this because they're the ones implementing a lot of these algorithms. The assumption is they're actually going to get more views and viewership because you have more people over here going to dislike the left side box. The only thing they've actually solved with this is making it so there's less dislikes on the right side, which I mean, I guess in a way might make the mainstream right less radical. However, it increases the chances of someone being like more radicalized on the right. And I think in general, we need to make the assumption of trying to open up these windows towards the radical side rather than opening them, rather than like closing off the radical sides. Because so the unity side never actually really gets screwed over in any of this, mainly because they're always going to be excluded. Like that's an unfortunate like conclusion that we made from the first video, is like no matter how much unitary like positions you invest in, it just won't happen unless there's a drastic change in how our media companies work. Because as long as they're going for viewership and not education, then you're gonna have this split.